Hey, what's up, business owner? Welcome back. Today we have with us Rich Allen. After watching his father's family-owned business struggle to succeed, he made it his mission to turn failure into legacy by asking one simple question. What makes a business work? The answer, it's as easy as knowing how a bike works. Rich is a high-energy speaker, recognized author, successful entrepreneur, and sought-after advisor to business owners, proving time and time again that his bicycle model works. With experience in both large and small companies, including growing a small manufacturing business to well over 100 million in annual sales, he has helped hundreds of business owners harness the power of their team, giving them the freedom, flexibility, and profitability that they deserve. Rich Allen, you are the man. What's going on? Thanks so much for being here. How are you today?
Paul, I'm great, man. Thanks so much for having me on your show. I've been looking forward to this.
I am excited, and really that last bit of your intro, giving them freedom, that's what we're all about. So before we jump in and learn all about your expertise and your journey, what is your ideal view of ultimate freedom?
You know, the idea for me, Paul, is that that we get to do the thing that is our legacy, right? The thing that matters most to us, right? Each one of us probably has a passion or a mission or a purpose that we really just feel deep inside. But a lot of times, as we go through this journey that we call business, we put that off because we say, one day I'll be able to do that. And too often times, that day never comes. But to me, that's what freedom is, right? If that's spending time with your family, great. If that's doing mission work, perfect. Whatever that is to the person.
Yeah, and that's so true. I mean, if you think about it, most business owners, and you and I have been there as well. I mean, many times, many days, our goal is just to survive. And unfortunately, that turns into a habit. And we totally forgot about that legacy. We totally forgot about that vision that we had when we started our business and the freedom we wanted and the flexibility to be our own boss and do all those great things, because then we're like in it 24/7 and we're just trying to survive. So sounds like you saw your dad go through that. Me personally, I saw my dad go through that as well, running his own business, and now he can't physically do it anymore, and there's really nothing left over just because it was a one-man band. So what was your journey? What was your experience with a family-owned business, and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I'll give you the quick background. It's, I grew up in a very large family. I've got 11 brothers and sisters, and my dad was one hardworking guy, probably the most committed guy I ever met. I hope I learned a lot from him and gained a lot of his skills and talents and behaviors. But when he was 34 years old, he was working 3 jobs, trying to make ends meet. But he made the boldest decision of his life to start his own business. And at the time, Paul, I remember him saying, "Look, I got this dream. I've got this legacy. I want to build this business and leave a legacy for my 8 sons." And so he bought a used van. We stenciled the side of it in the car wrap of the 70s, and he opened his own window washing business. And my dad was unbelievable at window washing. He was the best you could find. Detail-minded, great with customers, everything you wanted. He had no clue how to run a business. And all of us boys who were working with him were just basically slave labor. Every day was a train wreck. My dad was a constant optimist. He said, "Guys, if we just work hard at this, one day we'll get this figured out." But he had no clue what that one day looked like. And so slowly but surely, each one of us went our own way. We all said, "Look, there's a better life out there somewhere." One of my brothers even opened a competing window washing business and competed with my dad. And I went off and got lucky and went to college. Was the only one able to do that. Just a fortunate, God was blessing me on that one. But I was always thinking about my dad, but my dad could never make it work, and never spent time at home, never spent time with his kids doing things. He ended up losing his marriage. He became an alcoholic. My dad washed windows on the day he died, and never experienced the joy and the fruits of owning his own business. And that has haunted me every day since I used to work with him.
And now you're making your mission to make sure that doesn't happen to other people. And I know we've all been there. And that one day, all of a sudden you go back, it's like, wow, I started this business 5 years ago and I'm still doing the same thing. So obviously you figured a little bit of this out through your experience, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but you've really kind of dialed into this bicycle model. If you guys are watching the interview, there's a bicycle hanging behind Rich right now. But what is the bicycle model? How did that even come to be?
Yeah, Paul, the way that came, I went into, did a tour in the military, went out, got into a corporate job, I was in a functional role in a corporation for many years. But I always wanted to run my own business. I thought that'd be cool. I'd been studying business because I wanted to help my dad, but it was kind of too late for him. But one day my boss came to me, and we had just acquired a small manufacturing business based out of Minnesota. And my boss walked into my office. He had a key in his hand and he said, "Rich, this one's yours." And he basically said, "It's your business to go run." So it was about a $30 million business, had about 220 people or so in it. And I was just thrilled. So my wife and I packed up, we moved to Minnesota. I walked into the business and I thought to myself, holy cow, I don't have a clue what I'm going to do to make this business work. I mean, it was my dream, the dream of my life. And Paul, I was scared to death. I had no clue. All I saw were machines, people, raw materials, just stuff everywhere. I had no clue what I was going to do. And for weeks, I walked around the factory just faking like I knew what I was doing. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, I got to find a way to get these guys to help me make this business better. And one day I had this brainstorm of an idea, and you know where that happens, right? Where do the best ideas happen?
In the shower.
Of course, in the shower. I was in the shower one day and I had this idea, and I called my admin and I said, "Hey, call a meeting, let's clear out part of the factory. We're going to have a meeting. I want everybody there, 2 shifts." So we had everybody there, 200 people or so. I brought in this bike, the one that hangs on the wall here behind me, because I was a cyclist at the time. And I put this bike up on the table at the front of the room, and I got everybody's attention, and I said, "Guys, what's this?" And they all looked at me kind of like you're looking at me right now, Paul. And they all said, I mean, they just thought I'd lost my mind. And they said, "Man, who did they send us? They send us this nutcase." And some said it was a bike. A couple guys in the back said it was stolen property. And I convinced them it was mine. But then I said, "Guys, this is our business. And if we could understand how our business is like this bike, we could tune up this business and we could make it go really fast." And so I took them on a lap around the bike and explained to them how every component of a bike relates to a critical element in the business. And all of a sudden, for the first time, guys who were just working on the factory floor understood how a business worked. And they all started coming up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, I know what's wrong with our back tire. I know what's wrong with our frame. I know where we're rubbing here. I know what's out of alignment." And we started talking in bicycle terms. And that's what we used. And we used a lot of, obviously, a good disciplined technologies and methodologies to grow the business. But fast forward 7 years, our $30 million business was doing $150 million. And we owned the top end of our business category, and everybody in the business knew where they were on and what the bike was all about.
That's awesome. I mean, I think, especially when you can engage your whole team to understand that without one piece of this bike, no matter what you are, whether you're the frame, you're the brakes, you're the handlebars, you're the seat, whatever it is. I mean, you look at that bike, it looks pretty simple, but then you start diving into it. There's like a lot of components, just like a business, especially when you get to that size. So that's what I want to focus on, because a lot of business owners, they have this vision that I'm going to own a business, but I'm not going to have to work in it. I'm not going to have to, actually go clean the windows. I might have people cleaning the windows. I'm not going to have to answer the phones. I'm not going to have to go on the sales calls. I'm not going to have to do all those things. Yeah. But then when it comes time, like you reach your breaking point, like I don't have any more time. I need to delegate this stuff. We freeze up and we don't want to hire a team. We don't want to give up any control. We're the only ones that can do this. How can we get business owners over that hump to engage, one, to get a team and engage them, and then two, how you were actually able to inspire them to not just be a window washer, be a valuable part of this bike.
Yeah. That is probably that leap of faith, Paul, and you see this all the time, I'm sure, that leap of faith to go from where you're the expert in the business, you're the one that's doing everything, to be willing to bring somebody else on and delegate to them and have them be responsible and have authority for some area of your business. That's the biggest leap of faith in any business. Everybody waits till they either are financially ready or have the success that would allow them to do that comfortably. It's way too late, right? I always tell people, look, when you can pay for half of somebody's salary, hire them. And their benefit to the business will generate the other half that you didn't have and more. But that's just a mindset that you got to get into, right? And so, but you're right. That's kind of the stuckedness where most people get, right? If you think about it, I mean, you probably know this statistic, but I think it's probably 95% of businesses never reach $1 million in revenue annually, which means if that's the case, 95% of business owners simply have a job. And I've heard you say this on your show that, look, if you're doing this by yourself, all you've done is you've taken on 5 or 6 or 7 roles and you've said, I'll do them all. So rather than having one job, now you have 5 or 6.
For sure. And usually it's more stressful than the job you left, because the job you left, anybody that used to work in a corporation knows it's fairly cushy, right? Like you can take an hour lunch and you don't have to work all the time. It's really hard to get fired, like, unless the economy goes down, you get laid off. But if you're going to take that risk to be a business owner, you might as well start reaping the rewards, which obviously that's what you help people do, get that freedom, get that flexibility, get that profitability. So let's continue this journey. So, okay, I've hired these people and I've started to delegate. What should be the primary role of a business owner anyway? Because there's so many business owners still, it's like, well, I still want to do this, or I still need to do this, or I still have to do this. But what should they actually be doing?
Yeah, here's my take on that, Paul. And you may have a different opinion, but here's my strong opinion. And I'll use the bike analogy. When we were kids, how did we like to ride our bike?
Fast.
We like to ride our bike fast without hands, right? Because if we could ride our bike without hands, we were cool. We were part of the cool kid group, right? Because we'd ride along and just go wherever, but we wouldn't have our hands on the handlebars. Here's the deal. Most business owners try to run their businesses without their hands on the handlebars. And the handlebars are all about steering and vision and leadership. So it's about, where do you want the business to go? You got to steer it. Well, the one one thing that a business owner typically doesn't spend their time doing, because it's important but not urgent, right? We all get trapped into those things that are urgent but not important. This is important but not urgent, and that is, what do we want this business to look like in 5 years? Because until we can put that into a picture in our own mind and then share it as a very compelling picture to those who are on our team, whether it's one person, 2, or maybe even just first to ourselves, nobody wants to go on the ride with us, because no one wants to jump into our mess, because we look like we're like a one-armed paper hanger, right? We're arms and legs that going everywhere. Who wants to jump into that? What I want to do is I want to jump in when I see that you have a vision that makes me excited. So the first thing we have to do as business owners is begin to steer.
That's well said. And I think we usually have that vision, right? When we started our business, like this, what it's going to do this, it's going to do this, it's going to allow me to do this. We're going to have all these people in place. But then you get in the day-to-day grind, you might be hiring people, but you never share that vision, because it's like, well, it's really not that important right now. One of the businesses that I help run, kind of going through that right now. And we started sharing the vision of, this is where I see the biggest value. You can show your team where it's going, and then you can tell your team and empower them, like, hey, and you could be up there, like you could be running this department, or you could be head of this. And then it's a total game changer, when really a lot of businesses are like, well, why? That doesn't really matter right now. They don't care, do they? They just want to do their job and go home. And it's totally not true. So we start to do that. And we need some structure and organization for that vision, right? So we got the vision and okay, 5 years, we want it to look like this, but now what? So why are kind of the structure and the organization so important in order to keep the proverbial bike going that direction?
Right. So and you're absolutely right. Yeah. And we all start with that. We all have it in our mind. That's why we went into business, right? We were excited about it and we saw what the future could be like, but then we got stifled and decided to work in the details and not talk about it anymore. But just like we've got to steer, we have to put our hands on the handlebars and steer the bike. The other part that's really important is the frame of the bike. And the frame of the bike is what holds everything together. And the frame of the bike, in my mind, is your organization structure, your job responsibilities, and your accountability system. Those are the three things that make up the frame. And here's what I always tell business owners because it's easy. Some people can't do this visioning thing, or they think it's kind of weird. They don't want to do the Oprah Winfrey, I'm going to, just dream it into place kind of a thing. But here's a practical way to do it. I always tell people, I make them do this. Draw the org chart for the business you want to have in 3 years. So don't draw your org chart for today. Even if it's just you, draw it functionally. So it's by function, not person. In other words, if you're the business owner, you still have 6 or 7 boxes on your org chart. But more than that, build it for what you want the business to be in 3 years. And then show that org chart to your team. Let them know every box is open. You can have whichever one you want. And then to take it a step further, Paul, the best thing I've found is I tell them for each box on the org chart, there are 2 rules. One is only 1 person per box. So you can't have no 2 people in the same box. It's a fundamental rule in business because then nobody owns it. The second thing is for each box, there's a position agreement. And the position agreement has 3 things that it tells you. Here's what this role is responsible for. Here's how this role will be measured. And here are the behaviors that I expect in this position. And if a business owner could simply get to that point of having an organizational chart that has 3 years in the future with each box supported by a single page document that outlines, here's what this job is responsible for, here's how we're going to measure this position, and here are the behaviors, they're 90% of the way there.
That's so funny. That's exactly what we were just going through. So if you guys are watching, literally, this is an org chart we just put together.
There you go.
And
yeah.
Right now, me and John, his name's John, is doing most of those jobs. But we know as the business grows, someone else is going to take that one. You're going to slowly peel the layers off. And then, in 3 years, each person has one role. They're in that box. And then you share that with your whole team. And you even show people, hey, right now you're going to be a tech, but you could move up to be a leader, a designer, a manager, whatever it is, you can continue to move up. And I think a lot of business owners are afraid to share that because then they're just going to leave or they're going to think this, that, and the other. But, most people don't want to be business owners. They rather just be a part of that team and continue to build it up. And,
right.
You talk to them I'd love to be an account manager and really help you build this thing or work together. So I love that exercise. It really takes 5 minutes to take out a piece of paper and start writing it down and kind of compartmentalize it. And it can always change, right? You could always have a new department or something
right.
to consolidate. But when you have that vision, you can share with people. It is so, so important. So, okay, so now we've done that. Now we got to kind of tell our team, how do we communicate to our team, this is where we're going? And like you said, not sounding like we're some crazy woo-woo, Oprah thing and all visionary, but we do want to share that vision with them and then inspire them to continue to work towards whatever their goal is, figuring out what their goal is. How do we actually implement that?
Yeah, I'll share that. I'll share a story about an architect firm that did this that I thought was the most compelling thing, and it changed the trajectory of their business. We had this conversation. This guy had run this business for 30 years, but he had about 30 or 35 people on the team. So it was a very successful business. They were doing well, but he was tucked in the business in a way that he couldn't get out. The thought of him not charging for his time every day was this foreign thought to him. How could he ever put that burden on the business to carry his load as the owner? So what we did is we built the org chart. We ended up with about 60 people, 60 boxes on the team. He put it on a big, as an architect, right? So he put it on this big sheet of paper that was architect's thing, put it up on the wall in the conference room, invited everybody in, told them how he was going to do this, and the fact that he was going to segment his business and put some divisions into the structure. And then at the end, he did the magic trick, is what I call it. He had a black magic marker. He held it up and he said, at the end of this meeting, I want each of you to go put your name on the box you want to be in. And everybody afterwards went up and put their names, some of them on his box, but they all put their names on the boxes they aspired to be in. And that for him gave him all that he needed to have his next performance reviews with everybody, to tell them what they needed to do or what skills they needed to gain, what behaviors and experiences they needed to have in order to be ready for that box. And just by doing that, everybody started learning, growing, envisioning themselves in that bigger position. And now he's got 55 people on the team. So he's gone from like 35 to 55. And many of those bigger level positions are filled by the people who were there when he had 30.
That's awesome. I mean, it's so empowering and refreshing to hear stories like that, even, just for someone, they might only have 2 employees and
right,
have all this box. But once you know what their goal is, you might never even knew that Bob wanted to be in operations or that Joe wanted to be here. But once you know that, then it can be our job as the leaders to like, okay, Bob, now I'm going to help you get there. And this is what you need to learn. This is who you need to shadow. So not only are they aspiring and working better, but the current job they're doing, they're also crushing it because they want to prove to you and everybody else that, hey, I am fit to move up there. So that's really great exercise for anybody out there. And even if you just have one employee, work with them together and say, this is where we can go. And you're the first one on the bus, so you can pick your seat. That's really exciting. So let's go to the solopreneur now. So we've kind of mapped out their vision. This is what we need to do. If we don't have anybody on our team, how do we determine who needs to be that first hire? Who do we need to bring on first in order to really start that process?
Paul, I think this one, like I said, this is where most people get stuck. But the reality is all of us have skills that fall into one of 4 categories, right? There are some things that, frankly, we suck at and we shouldn't be doing, right? We just have no competency for them. They wear us out. There are other things that we're okay at, we can do, but they take us a lot longer, or we just aren't that proficient. There are some things we're really competent at. And those are the things that tend to be the things that hold us back because we are capable. But the things that really are our magic are the things that are our gifts or our unique talents, whatever those are. And unless we write down the 40 things that we do in our business and put them into one of those 4 categories and make the first line we ought to draw is below competence and say, I am determined these I'm never going to do again, right? Because if you're doing your own books and you're taking 2 days a month to do that, you could have a bookkeeper that'll take 2 hours to do that. And you could turn those 2 days into gaining new customers. Or serving your customers in a better way. So we ought to say that's where you start. And then when you really want to go fast, you'll narrow your focus so that you spend 50% or more of your time in that area that's your zone of genius. And the businesses that do the best and the people that grow the fastest are the ones where the business owner can more quickly get themselves to where they're the only thing they do, or the lion's share of what they do, is in the zone of genius.
I love it. I mean, that's as actionable advice as you can get for anybody out there listening. Like literally write down everything you do and then just start categorizing. Like, okay, these are the 4 things that I need to delegate by the end of next month. And it could be a virtual assistant. It could be a bookkeeper. It could be another service provider. It could be a part-time employee. It could be somebody on your staff. You could also, if you say you own a window cleaning company and you have a window cleaner, but he might also want more hours and maybe he can do something else, outside of the hours that he's cleaning windows. There's so many opportunities to find people. I think a lot of business owners get stuck with, well, I don't have enough work to hire someone full-time, so I'm just going to wait till I have enough work to hire them full-time. And I think that goes back to one of your points of taking that leap of faith of once you can pay half of whatever you're paying them, whether it's a salary, whether it's a retainer, do it, because the productivity that you're going to see is going to go through the roof. So
absolutely.
Amazing actual advice, Rich. Really appreciate it. So now we're going to go back to the top. You mentioned that your definition of ultimate freedom is really being able to do that legacy and leave that legacy and inspire. You really have your mission driven out based on your experiences growing up. So how do you make sure you continue to achieve that? Because your niche, there's millions of business owners that you can help. So how do you make sure that you stay in balance, if you want to say balance, to make sure that you aren't going too far one way and you fall into that trap of just working too much or not being able to achieve your goals because of the demand that is out there for what you're doing?
Yeah, there's this false belief, Paul, that I believe is out there that there is that people see us as being more important or valuable the busier we are. And I think that's this false premise that says busyness equals importance. And I can tell you that, my goal and what I help business owners do is not miss their kids' soccer games, not miss their wife's special, date nights and those kinds of things. Because to me, look, my kids are now all grown and out of college. I'm past that. But there was a time when I was a victim of that. You may not have heard this story, but at one point along my journey, my 7-year-old daughter started calling me her uncle because I was never home. And it was like a stake in the heart, right? Because she didn't want me to be around. She didn't want me to do things with her because I was never there. So she demoted me from dad to uncle. And that was, for me, the time when I said, wow, there is something more important than just pushing harder, working more hours, growing faster. All that can happen, but it doesn't mean as the business owner, we have to work hard. There are a lot of people who want to do that for us. We just got to be willing, and we've got to be bold enough to go find the people who have the capability, those A players who want to do that, and invite them to come along our journey with us. And every time that happens, I see business owners just have this sigh of relief, and they say, wow, I didn't know it could be this way.
So true, because most times when you hang out with other business owners, it's always talking about that. Oh, I got to do one more thing. I got to do this, that, more. It's always a, hustle bustle, and we're always busy, but how productive are we actually? So really, really another obviously inspiring story there. And I commend you for being able to leverage all the stuff that you went through to empower others and to lead others and to help others, whereas plenty of people could have went the total opposite way and just like, whatever, this is the way it is. So what's next for you, Tour to Profit? What can we be on the lookout for with what you got going on?
Yeah, I'm actually jazzed myself right now, Paul. I'm in the middle of writing my third book. I thought I thought I had the bike nailed down, but I realized about 6 months ago that the bike is actually one part of a 2-part epoxy glue. But it's related to the bike, but I've never really talked about it. And that is, if you can see right behind me, the pedals down here, the pedals represent the feedback we get from our employees about how hard they're willing to work for us. And oftentimes we talk about business owners doing performance reviews of our employees. And that's typically how business works, is that we review employees. It's not very often that we turn around and let the employees review our business and tell us how compelling the vision is to them, how well we're communicating to them, how well I fit on a team, those kinds of things. And the pedals are the feedback mechanism that tell us whether people are really willing to pedal hard and get into the big gear for us and drive our business forward. So I'm writing a book called the radically engaged team. I'm absolutely thrilled about it. I'm excited. It kind of takes the bike to the version 2 level. And that hopefully I'll have that out here first of the year.
Awesome. Well, definitely excited to see that come out. We'll definitely let everybody in our database know once it is out, but be on the lookout depending on when you are listening to this. It could be 2022 when you're listening to this because this kind of lives out there forever. But beginning of 2020, that book will be out. Really excited to watch that. Really excited for what you're doing in inspiring business owners. Before we do let you go, though, Rich, give our listeners one parting piece of advice to help them get to the next level in their pursuit of ultimate freedom.
You know, the parting piece of advice I would say is don't, you know, someone told me once, don't let money deny destiny. And in business, we tend to watch our finances fairly close. We have to make payroll, we have to do things. But a lot of times, all we have to do is take that leap of faith that others, there are people out there who can and will help us in our business and are probably better at the functional jobs than we are as business owners. And don't wait till you've made it to let somebody come and help you. Don't let that be what limits your thinking. If you do, you'll spend 5 years in frustration. And at the moment you do it, you'll wish you did it 5 years earlier. That's my promise.
That is so true. I tell everybody there is no trophy for going it alone. And I really like your analogy of just if you want to bring it back to dollars, once you can support half of their salary, you know they will pay for themselves, whether it's in productivity, growing your business, saving you this, whatever it is, it does work because, you know, it's amazing that you also have the lag time of, okay, whether it's a salesperson, whether it's a productivity person, whether it's someone providing the service, whatever it is, it enables you and empowers you to go do more of what, like you said, in your zone of genius. Rich Allen, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to impart some of your knowledge, wisdom, and enthusiasm to our community. Hopefully this helps everyone out there get one step closer to achieving ultimate freedom in business and, as Rich said, most importantly, in life. Before we sign off, though, Rich, where can our listeners go to keep in touch with you and learn more about what you got going on?
Well, I'd love for you to go to my website. In fact, I put together a page, Paul, that for your listeners to get, if they want to get some free resources that I've already have out there, I've packaged them onto Tour to Profit, one word, tourtoprofit.com/BOFF. And if you go there, I've put some free resources. You can pick up on those things, use them. Grab all the free stuff you can. I said, there's nothing in this life that anybody has created by themselves. We all, take and learn from everybody else. And so I want to share generously. I hope there's some resources there that some of your folks could use.
Cool. Yeah, we'll definitely link that up in the show notes as well. But it's Tour to Profit, just like it sounds, TOURDEPROFIT.com/BOFF for Business Owners Freedom Formula. Rich, thanks again for coming on the show today. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you so much. For all the listeners out there, if you are not subscribed to the show, do me a super quick favor. Hit that subscribe button so you can receive all future episodes without having to think about it. Thank you so much to everyone who does do this. It helps me know you're listening, so I keep putting on the show for you, and most importantly, bringing on great guests like Rich. Until next time, remember, what got you here won't get you there. Get started and make it happen.